Massachusetts. Do you know bed eight? Eight?
No.
Okay, Ron, we are online in this moment. Please, if you can introduce yourself to all our people and we can start our webinar.
Yep, for sure. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on what part of the world you're joining us from. I'll get into introductions here in a second, just with it's actually one of the slides, so we'll cover that when we get to the slide. But again, want to thank you all for joining us. And as Hernan said, what we're going to be looking here is how we can help reduce loss and downtime at your facility in the event that there is a fire emergency. How can we lessen that impact, both on your companies, but as well the communities that you're located in. And I'll let everybody know we're having some issues with the embedded videos in the PowerPoint. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to bounce between presenter view to the regular editable view of PowerPoint to get the videos to play. So we'll be bouncing back and forth from full screen down a little bit to get some of the videos to play. But just a little bit about hazard control technologies. Hazard control's been around since 1997. We protect companies on all 6 continents, 27 years of experience, and in particularly around lithium-ion batteries. We have 15 years of fire testing experience on those lithium-ion type battery fires. As Hernan said, just a little information about myself. I am the North American Eastern Area Manager for Hazard Control. I also have 40 years in the fire service. I currently serve as a fire chief with a volunteer department here in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. I'm a member of the International Association of Chiefs, the Allegheny County Fire Chiefs, and our local community, the South Hills Area Chamber of Governments, our Fire Chiefs Advisory Committee. I'm also a member of the NFPA. I serve as an alternate on the technical committees for NFPA 18, 18A, and 1150. And I'm a Pro Board IFSAC Firefighter 2 and Instructor 1. So, what's the real cost of manufacturing, with today's newer both technologies that we're working with, trying to make our facilities more green, more energy efficient. It's creating new hazards, and potentially the fire suppression solutions that we have used in the past aren't quite relevant for some of the hazards that we're facing at our facilities today. And because those potential fixed systems aren't up to protecting that hazard, it can mean a serious loss in both equipment and downtime at the facility. So what are we talking about? Both some of the newer materials that are being used in construction, as well as the facilities that are making them components. So we work with quite a few of the builders, Georgia Pacific in one that's making a lot of the OSB, the plywood, that type of material. So not only are lighter weight materials being used in the construction of our facilities, but some of those facilities may actually be manufacturing those lightweight products. So the same hazards we would see in a fire with the toxic off gases, the chemicals and the glues that are used to join those products, not only as a result of a fire to those building materials, but actually a fire in the facilities that's creating those building materials. So there's that whole hazard associated with the newer technologies that we're building and some of these new products. If we look at just information from the U.S. Fire Administration, fires are becoming more frequent. And in the last 9 years, we've had a 19% increase in the level of fires even a larger increase, unfortunately, in fire deaths. Thankfully, injuries are down and losses are up. You know, they aren't keeping pace with the increase in fire volume, but there has been, you know, about $1 million increase in the fire losses over that 9-year period. Just some of the international from 2024, some of the large fires and the resultant injuries and deaths from them. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the lithium battery factory fire that happened over last year in South Korea that resulted in 23 deaths and 9 injuries. That tequila factory in Mexico, again, 6 deaths and 2 injuries. The BASF chemical plant in Germany that resulted in 14 injuries, and the coal mine incident in Iran that resulted in 51 deaths and 20 injuries. This is where we'll jump out. Sorry about that, the little glitch here with it. These are now some incidents here just from 2025. So we're early in the year, but we've already had several major incidents here in the U.S.
Well, tonight we are hearing the harrowing accounts of volunteer firefighters from across Abington Township. They're the ones who race in to battle that massive 600,000 square foot SPS Technologies factory fire. Aziza Schuler has our coverage tonight.
SPS Technology got heavy fire through a large section of roof.
A raging inferno unlike anything this community has seen before. Explosions rocking the night, 60 lives at stake, and 200 brave firefighters on front line.
As soon as we crossed the hill near the Abington Senior High School, you get some smoke and the glow from the building, and a tremendous amount of fire through the roof. There was going to be no viable way for our crews without either being lost, hurt, severely hurt, or possibly killed to continue to be in that building.
The conditions so dangerous, crews had no choice but to split up. Some fought the fire while others anchored search ropes, then went into the flaming factory to rescue trapped employees, all of whom made it out safely.
There was arcing, there was explosions going on.
It was dark. There was zero visibility, even on a thermal imaging camera.
Hours stretched into days, and by Saturday, the fire was finally out. However, environmental agencies will continue to monitor the air and water in this neighborhood for any lingering chemical contamination. Meanwhile, the charged facility remains a stark reminder of the disaster.
The building's been there for over 100 years. It's a tragedy, you know, for the community.
Though grateful their training prepared them for the best possible outcome, firefighters struggle with the memories that won't fade.
The sound of the air sucking into the building is something I don't think I'll ever forget.
Aziza Schuler, CBS News, Philadelphia.
So if we take a little closer look at that fire, it was at SPS Technologies in Abington, Pennsylvania. It was a 4-alarm blaze. SPS Technologies makes products for the aviation and aerospace industries. Again, 60 workers were on site at the time of the fire. There was a shelter-in-place order. Schools and businesses within 1-mile radius of the factories, which has already led to class action lawsuits from those folks against the company. The day that the fire was actually fought by 70 different fire departments. It was finally extinguished after 5 days. So again, a very long duration incident, very serious environmental releases. And again, for those companies, lawsuits, class action lawsuits already being filed by individuals in the area. Another incident here just from 2025.
A lithium-ion battery is to blame for a massive fire in Camden Friday night that ignited a metal recycling scrapyard into flames and caused 100 families in the city to voluntarily evacuate. According to a Camden spokesperson, EMR shredding facilities wrongly set the battery, which was sealed undetectable in scrap metal, setting off a fire around 5 p.m. with plumes of smoke in the sky that could reportedly be seen 15 miles away. No injuries were reported, and fire crews had the blaze under control by 1 a.m. Saturday, but the scrapyard suffered extensive damage and will need major repairs. In a statement, EMR said the company has never accepted batteries for disposal or recycling, and repeated calls for the state and federal governments to regulate risks of lithium-ion batteries in particular. EMR covered the cost of meals and hotels for residents who live near the facility, but neighbors have complained about the site for years, citing other fires and conditions at the property.
So again, just some information on that ER metal fire. Again, a metal recycling facility, but that one also grew to 4 alarms. Again, the smoke could be seen from 15 miles away. It's located on a major highway connecting Philadelphia and South Jersey. So you had the road actually being closed during rush hour, which, again, that total shutdown of traffic can, lead to business losses, not only for that facility, but just in those consumer products being moved up and down the highway. The Camden County Fire Director said this was the 6th fire at that facility. And there were roughly 15 to 20 fire companies working for about 9 hours to extinguish that blaze. So if we think about it, there are the consequences of having a fire and just the damage to your facility. But let's look at those, those indirect costs, be that environmental fines or pollution that can come from the vast quantities of water that were used to fight this fire, and also, the pollution from the smoke. As we've saw already with the fire in PA, class action lawsuits being filed by the neighbors or the residents in the area because of what they suffered from the fire. Potentially either increases in insurance costs or just total loss of insurance because of the fire. And then just for the company itself, just the damaged reputation, as we saw in the piece there on the fire in New Jersey at the scrapyard, that the neighbors, even before the fire, weren't really thrilled that the facility was in their neighborhood to begin with. And as the fire commissioner said, this was the 6th fire at that facility. So, just that loss of reputation within the community. So we have, in addition to those indirect costs, the impact on the community, as we said, if the interstate shut down, if business is interrupted because of that, the personal impact on your employees that potentially are laid off and are out of work because the facility may be closed for an indefinite period of time as, facilities are repaired and the place is brought back up online. The cost associated with business interruption and your lost revenue, and not only lost revenue, but market share, depending on what industry you're in. It gives your competitors an advantage if you can't bring your products to market because your facility's closed and you don't have the ability. You may have been a market leader pre-fire, but because of a loss of being able to manufacture your products, you lose market share to some of your competitors. So let's look at what we can do with Encapsulator Technology, with F500, those NFPA 18A agents, to help lessen that impact, reduce damages, reduce runoff, reduce smoke, and get you back in business faster. So real quick animation here. We're going to go over what Encapsulator Technology is, what F500 is, and how it works.
Next generation of fire and hazard mitigation. First, we start with a simplified version of a single encapsulator agent molecule consisting of a hydrophilic polar head which loves water, dissolves in water, and a hydrophobic non-polar tail which fears water and will do anything to get away from water. Once the EA molecules enter the water, they instantaneously and automatically orient with the non-polar tails inward and the polar heads outward, forming millions of spherical micelles. Micelles travel towards and exit the nozzles, forming EA droplets. Micelles nearest to the surface of each droplet automatically break apart. The non-polar tails orient outside the droplet with polar heads on the surface, forming an EA skin on the surface of every droplet. In addition to the EA skin, there are millions of molecular spherical micelles within each droplet.
So as we've covered in previous presentations, you know, the orientation of the agent on the surface of the water and internally to the droplet, those micelles give you a couple unique features that we'll actually cover here in the next couple slides. So that first is encapsulation. You know, unlike foams, encapsulating agents, F500 work on a completely different mechanism, which is that spherical micelle. And that micelle was capable of chemically, molecularly binding to a hydrocarbon and rendering it non-flammable. That's one of the reasons that F500 and encapsulating agents have recently been recognized by the FAA as a supplementary, complementary agent for use in ARF firefighting, because it brings to the table some benefits that you can't get with traditional foams. So again, just expanding those capabilities for airports in the ARF world to better protect their facilities. So real quick video here that's going to kind of drive home the point of what's the difference between an encapsulator and a foam. So what you're going to see here, this is some E10 gasoline that's been poured out on the ground, and the F500 is actually going to be streamed into that. So if we would be talking about a foam blanket, you would have a bubble blanket there protecting that fuel. What we have here is a complete encapsulation of that hydrocarbon, rendering it non-flammable. Here we're extinguishing the fire very rapidly with the solution. And now we'll take a torch and actually show that that entire flammable liquid is now non-flammable and non-ignitable. If we had a foam blanket down over top of the fuel and we were actually walking through it, we would break and disturb that foam blanket. We would expose vapors and the fuel would reignite. That reignition threat is taken away when an encapsulator agent is used, because it's chemically, molecularly binding to that hydrocarbon and can't be broken or dissipated like a foam blanket. So another way that F500 and encapsulator agents are helping to suppress the fire and improve the environment is by reducing the amount of toxins that are given off as the fire is burning. So we can actually lessen the impact of smoke and the carcinogenic compounds that are in the smoke. All this using a documented fluorine-free product that is completely biodegradable and non-corrosive. So we have the ability to not only improve the environment that is being created by the fire, but we're doing it with an eco-friendly product that is completely biodegradable and is a fluorine-free product. So that last thing is, we look at that NFPA 18A section 7.7, which is the encapsulation standard, the encapsulation test protocol for an encapsulating agent. So just like we have UL 162 for foams to be tested to, encapsulator agents or products claiming to be an encapsulating agent need to be tested to this NFPA 18A section 7.7 test protocol to show that the agent actually forms a spherical micelle and that micelle has the capability of encapsulating a fuel and rendering it non-flammable. Particularly around the lithium-ion battery fires within that NFPA 18A standard, Annex 4.3 specifically references encapsulating agents that conform to that 7.7 standard, have been extensively and rigorously tested against lithium-ion battery fires and show the ability to rapidly extinguish the battery fires while simultaneously reducing the harmful toxins that are coming off the batteries while they burn. That testing has been done worldwide, and we have accreditations from various agencies, again, worldwide, from here in the U.S., like the EPA, the FAA, NIOSH, and the Mine Safety and Health Administration, to internationally from the Fire Insurance Laboratories of Korea, DACRA over in Europe, again, SGS, AP+. So worldwide acceptance and certification and testing of F500 for various applications. So I know earlier we talked about some of the hazards, and we looked at some fires both in scrap recycling facilities and those chemical plants. So this is just a case history of a fire. This was in Laval, Canada. So this is actually, that's the French, but it's Multiple Recyclage Incorporated is the name of the company. And back in 2020, they had a very large fire. So what they had was wood debris, construction debris, cardboard that these folks process, and then that is sold to companies that use that to fire their steam generators. And again, the fire began on December 26th in 2020. It burned for multiple days. There was a hospital right down the road from the facility that they were actually thinking about having to evacuate in the middle of COVID because the smoke conditions and the odor was so bad in the hospital. The wind had changed, so it kind of reduced that risk for a few days. But on the 30th, they were expecting winds to change again and again blow that smoke back towards the facility. So they contacted our local rep up in the Quebec area. We provided some F500 to them, and the fire department actually noted that within 2 hours of application of the F500, they had a drastic reduction in both the amount of smoke and the fire coming off of the pile. So where they fought the fire for 3 or 4 days, having very little success, once they got F500 on scene and started applying it, within 2 hours, they had a serious reduction in the amount of smoke and gases coming off of that fire. This is another facility. This was just last year up in Metallico Scrapyard in Buffalo, New York, where again, they brought F500 in to help with that incident. Sorry, we have to break out here again.
Well, tonight, the Buffalo Fire Department is still investigating the cause of this two-alarm blaze at Metallico Metal Scrapyard on Fillmore Avenue on Saturday. Now, while it is not believed to be suspicious, it did cause $2 million worth of damage and was very difficult for firefighters to handle. But as Channel 2's Ron Plants reports live tonight, they got a little bit of help to put it out. Right, Ron?
That's right, Scott. You know, you've heard that phrase, mutual aid. Usually that involves a suburban volunteer fire department helping another suburban department battle a blaze, maybe with personnel and equipment. Well, in this case, 2 suburban departments and a local company actually assisted the BFD to handle, in certain ways, this fire here at this junk scrapyard on Fillmore Avenue on weekend. Here's the story. A towering plume of thick black smoke visible for miles and intense flames in this hard-to-control fire at the Metallico metal scrapyard, with residual flammable liquids in the tanks of the scrapped vehicles, lawnmowers, and snowblowers.
The height of the pile was like 20, 30 feet high, and there's always remnants of lubricants, gasoline, oil, things of that nature. And some oxidation it's taking place also under that pile. There was a deep-seated fire. It had burned underneath the pile.
No toxic fumes detected with testing, but there was the concern of nearby homes, so they wanted to attack it quickly. Buffalo police used a drone to direct hose water streams to hot spots in the pile. But gallons of water, not enough. The state and county calling in Scranton Volunteer Fire Department of Hamburg with these trailers that upload up to 300 gallons at a time of a biodegradable substance called F500 from Hazard Control Technologies, seen at use here in this vehicle fire video. And they mix it in with the water sprayed by the BFD tower trucks. It is not the firefighting foam with the forever PFAS carcinogen concerns.
This is different. So F500 is a water additive that works very well with 3-dimensional fires. So unlike conventional foam, which you hear about a lot, foam you have to form a blanket over the product or the fuel to put it out. F500 attacks hydrocarbons, and it attaches itself to the fire and extinguishes it, also cools.
But with a limited quantity, a series of calls to a second responder of sorts, the Buffalo-based Duvall Safety and Supplies firm, which stocks F500.
Our warehouse manager immediately called a driver, so our teammates all rallied to head in, literally came off the tail of the truck, and immediately into practice and into use.
Now, the Bowmansville Fire Department in Lancaster also called in to supply some of this F500 fire suppressant material. They, along with Scranton in Hamburg, if you think about it, they're positioned right near the thruway so they can better handle some of those hazmat and vehicle fires that might occur on that highway. On your side, reporting live here on Fillmore Avenue in Buffalo, I'm Ron Plants, Channel 2 News. Back to you.
So just another incident here. So this actually happened out in Nye County, Nevada. So this is Interstate 95, just outside of Las Vegas. So 2 tractor trailers traveling down the interstate collided, and one of the semis was hauling 31,000 pounds of lithium-ion batteries. Just a picture there from the scene. You can see the aftermath there, the batteries scattered all over the highway. So one vehicle was carrying, or the one semi carrying batteries, the other semi was carrying lumber. And again, a pretty amazing scene there on the highway. And we've all seen from various incidents the large quantity of water that is required to extinguish these battery fires. Well, what we have here is from the incident commander. This was from a news article about the fire that, like other lithium-ion fires, this fire involved high temperatures, dangerous gases, and explosive forces. But the fire department brought water with them. All they had was 5,500 gallons. This is the middle of the desert. There's not fire hydrants. There's not a water source available. So the only water they had available was the 5,500 gallons that they carried, but they also brought F500 with them and were able to extinguish that 31,000 pounds of burning lithium-ion batteries with 5,500 gallons of a 3% solution of F500. As a comparison, if you remember, probably a month prior to that, there was a Tesla semi was wrecked in California and was burning. That semi required 50,000 gallons of water to suppress that fire, plus additional airdrops from CAL FIRE where they were dropping retardant on the forest to keep the fire from spreading to the forest. And the highway was shut down for 40 hours. In the Nye County incident in Nevada, the highway was reopened within 18 hours after the incident. The fire was extinguished, the batteries were cleaned up, and the highway was reopened within 18 hours. So again, when we're talking about shutting down major thoroughfares and what that does to commerce, 18 hours to 40 hours is a drastic improvement in the flow of commerce on those interstate highways. So those past few incidents were all manual firefighting incidents where, the firefighters were actually applying F500. This case history is from the Southern Company. They're a power facility throughout the South. They had a fire at their 575 volt main transformer at Plant Gorgas in Alabama. The transformer was protected with an F500 suppression system. As you can see here, that's a photo of the transformer post fire. You can see the damage there to the transformer, but because of the F500 system, the fire was completely extinguished in 3 minutes and 10 seconds before the fire department even arrived on scene for the fire. The damage was contained to a single transformer to just the area that the transformer was located in. They were able to go ahead. They had another transformer, a replacement transformer in, I believe, Mississippi that they were able to bring in to replace that damaged transformer. So they removed the sprinkler system, cleaned out some of the rocks, some of the gravel below the transformer, replaced that gravel, set a new transformer, put the sprinkler system back in place, and within 14 days, they had that facility back up and running. So again, when we're talking about loss of time while a facility's closed, another incident where F500 drastically reduced that time, both the environmental costs. They had a similar fire at a different Southern Company facility where the fire was fought with foam. The fire burned, for about 16 hours before it was extinguished. And there was a multi-million-dollar cleanup cost post-fire because it was fluorinated foam that was used to actually fight that fire. So there was a huge PFAS contamination and a resulting environmental cleanup cost post-fire. Some of the other things I'd like to actually point out, if you look at those couple different incidents, is you need to be prepared ahead of time for that potential of a large-scale fire. So we saw in Nye County with the semi-trailer, about a month before that incident, Nye County received 2 F500 response trailers because they were afraid of a major incident like this, so they wanted to be prepared. So they had the ability to flow large quantities of F500 fairly quickly onto that battery fire. As we saw up in Buffalo, New York, there was some F500 in large quantities available, both from surrounding fire departments and our distributor that has, some 55-gallon drums. They had quite a bit of product in stock in case there was a major type incident. But what we can't wait for is kind of like we saw in Laval. Though F500 helped at the back end of that fire, the fire actually burned for 3 or 4 days before they started using F500. If F500 would have been there from the beginning of that fire, if it would have been applied early on, if they would have had the supply of product and the ability to supply it and get it on the fire early on, the results would have been much different. As they said, they had a very rapid reduction in smoke and fire spread within 2 hours of the agent being applied, of that solution being applied on the fire. So we need to pre-plan and be ready and have the F500 available. We can't wait till an incident happens and be reactive to it. We need to be proactive and be prepared for that major incident before it occurs. So the fluorine-free, again, F500 has always been a fluorine-free product. We've actually had it tested at an EPA approved, a U.S. Environmental Protection Agency approved laboratory. It run through that modified 537 testing, which is the U.S. EPA test protocol to check for fluorine products, for fluorine ingredients within a product. Those come back non-detectable, as well as testing that was performed by SGS, which is another very large multinational testing company. They did the same thing, testing for PFAS ingredients within the product, and again, came back non-detectable. The agent being completely biodegradable, again, that testing has been done internationally, both here in the U.S. by Clemson University, as well as the Hygiene Institute over in Europe, both showing the same thing, that F500 under normal use is readily biodegradable, both in the soil and in water. Non-corrosive, again, it is a non-corrosive agent. It won't damage your piping. It has a pH of 7. So again, very environmentally friendly product. As I talked before, we need to both look at the hazards we have and what the appropriate response is to that hazard. So handheld fire extinguishers for those small, very incipient incidents, up to whether it be like our TKO, our self-adducting nozzle, or handheld fire hose streams, to larger wheeled extinguishers, up to and including installation into a sprinkler system for all-encompassing fixed fire protection. We do that utilizing our diamond doser. It's a water-driven proportioner. So think of a water wheel driving a piston injection system, which gives you very large flow ranges, very accurate proportioning over a very large flow range. So as you can see here, we have various size diamond dosers that you have the ability to proportion anywhere from, with the smallest, from as low as 11 gallons a minute up to 48 gallons a minute, with the largest from 256 to over 2,600 gallons per minute. So again, very accurate proportioning over a very large flow range. And what does that do for you by having that in the stream? Well, it gives you superior protection. So F500 is a multi-class fire extinguishing agent. So class A, B, D, K, and lithium-ion battery fires. So multiple classes of fires simultaneously. It's a very sustainable product. So when you're looking at doing your yearly NFPA testing, we can add a dosing return valve where you can do your yearly testing without creating a solution, purely flowing water through the system and just dosing the agent directly back into the concentrate tank. You can assure through that testing that the system is proportioning correctly without creating any waste, without wasting product and having the environmental expense of disposing of or cleaning up the solution that may be made if you were using making a solution like with a foam type system. Again, the agent is used worldwide by Fortune 100 companies on down, everything from power companies like Evergy and Dominion to automakers including Jaguar, Porsche, Tesla, Volkswagen, Honda, BMW. It goes on, to battery manufacturers like Duracell and Bosch, to even outside of the the industry. Liberty Tire Recycling is one of our larger companies, and then even in the racing industry, the Formula E in the E-Moto circuit and Formula One over in Austria are all using F500 for fire suppression and spill control. So with that kind of wraps up the presentation, and we can open it up for questions.
Thank you, Ron. Please, if somebody wants to type the question here in the chat or raise the hand that I can give the permission to open the microphone, we can listen the question. Let me see, we have one hand. Please, Rick, you can turn on the microphone, Rick.
There we go. This is Rick Reed in Indiana. 32-year captain in the aviation world. And I've been living and exposed. I started with the old protein and now into this new foam that's trying to be introduced into us. And we love the product that we see with you all. And I don't know how we can get this as our primary agent to be there. We just finished some no flow testing as well and see some of the hurdles it is with this new foam that we're having brought into the industry, and would love to be an advocate to help you with the F500.
Well, Rick, we have tried everything we can with the FAA to try and get it pushed to be a primary suppressant agent. We think now, just as you said, it needs to be a groundswell coming from you guys that, you need a better solution than what the current fluorine-free foams are offering you. So I welcome your input. Indiana is part of the territory I help cover as being the Eastern Area Manager. Would love to have further discussions with you around that. We've been at the last few ARF conferences, and we'll be at the next one again. We're hoping just to get it on the rigs, and again, it's a secondary agent, so if the primary isn't working, maybe you can just switch to the secondary. And I think if that happens and we see some real world results, it may help open some eyes.
Well, if I can be an advocate and help you, I'd like to talk off channel if we can, because I did bring this up personally, was on duty with our last FAA inspector and shared the positives of your product. But, with just one inspector, they're just one voice that can take it back. And they're hearing this as well throughout some of the other airports that they hit. But one of the other hats I wear is we deal a lot with solar in the panels, not just residential, but on these large farms. And we're entertaining working with you all as well, and working with our departments and being able to introduce your product there as well to some of these smaller rural and suburban departments that may have limited access and need to get in quick and knock some of this and the lithium storage down.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Reed, for your comment. For us, it's very special. Okay, Ron, we have a question from, let me see, Michael asks, what is the shelf life of A500? I answered by message, but you can comment, please.
Yes, so the shelf life of F500 in concentrate is 15 years. Excuse me, in a solution, like within one of our wheeled fire extinguisher or handheld fire extinguisher, it's 5 years.
Okay, we have other question is, how is A500 for sawmill fires?
For sawmill fires,
yeah.
So it's very, very effective. So we're working with several sawmills and wood manufacturers, from Yellowwood to Rex Lumber, and others have installed some of our suppression systems within their dry kilns because it gives them a better suppression capability than plain water. Again, a lot of those times, those are older systems that, you know, maybe at the time they were designed, they met code, but, you know, as there have been fire incidents and they found that what was previously called for wasn't sufficient, and they were going to have to make an upgrade to the sprinkler system within the dry kiln. F500 seems to be a more economical solution than trying to increase the fire flow, needing higher quantities of water to you know, put that fire out. So it's a much better solution than just simply increasing the gallons per minute that's provided by the sprinkler system.
Okay, thank you. Let me, Lindsay has another question. If you mix your product in to create a solution, does the solution remain stable or do you have to use or dump it?
No, so the in solution, that solution is guaranteed to be stable for 5 years. So, and the reason we put that 5-year listing on it, or that 5-year, most times that solution is being created to be used in a fire extinguisher, and those extinguishers need to be hydrostatic tested every 5 years. So the solution is going to be getting dumped after a 5-year period anyway, when the extinguishers are taken out of service to be hydrostatic tested.
Okay, we start to have questions from all around the world. I have Paul Sicurella acronym. He said,
yes.
It works well on Class D metal, especially titanium turnings. Is a comment.
Yes, yeah. So Paul is very familiar with F500. He's one of our customers in the recycling industry where they deal with titanium on a daily basis, and use F500 again as that suppression agent of choice for those titanium fires, those Class D metal fires.
And we have here a long comment and a question in the end from Alan is, we are seeing an increasing number of fires in refuse and recycling truck here in New Zealand, and as other part of the world are finding. Fire has been attributed to lithium-ion batteries being crashed in the truck causing ignition, then turns causing ignition into multi-class fires. The industry are looking for solution. How is A500EA being used in this industry, or do you have recommendation for deployment of A500 into the truck?
Yeah, so as far as a fixed system to dump into the truck, I don't know. That would probably have to be a fairly large system with the amount of refuge that's carried in one of those trucks. And because it's such a deep-seated to get the penetration required into all that material, for fire department use for that type of application, it's very applicable. We do do a lot with various companies that are providing quick response, I'll say, like monitoring and application, suppression application at recycling facilities, both on like tripper floors, and even out with the piles, with their recycling piles, be that regular household waste, or like the Metallico, the scrapyard fires in that scrap recycling industry where F500 is being used, tied with early detection to go ahead and suppress some of the fires as soon as they start.
Okay, you know, we have other comment about James that he said, I work for Liberty Tire Recycling, and this product has proven to be life business saver. I deal with fires almost weekly, and having A500 readily available reduces my concerns considerably. And here is, hello, Bailey from Oklahoma in the coal power electrical generation. We have a 500 on site. Some of our plants have a 500 extinguisher. We were told by our companies that inspect fire extinguisher that they will not inspect them, stating that they are not legal. I'm paraphrasing because this was not told directly to me. Do you know why they wouldn't be able to inspect them, or are there specific companies that do inspect them?
So currently our extinguishers, it's not a UL listed extinguisher. The reason for that being so twofold. Up until recently, and recently I'll say within the last 18 to 24 months, we haven't had a huge demand for our fire extinguishers. So really, when we look at it from a profit and loss point of view, to get an extinguisher listed can be a very expensive proposition, and we really weren't selling enough fire extinguishers to justify that cost. Because of the lithium-ion battery hazard and as effective as F500 is on those lithium-ion battery fires, our extinguisher sales have exploded. So we are currently in the process of getting the F500 fire extinguisher listed. It'll be a Class A listing because the bulk of its uses are probably going to be for Class A and for lithium-ion battery fires. And currently, the lithium-ion battery is considered a Class A fire, which, you know, as a company, we don't feel, and myself personally doesn't feel, that's an accurate reflection of the hazard class of that fire. But that's where we're at. As far as inspections, we'll have to see. We do have some companies that will still inspect the extinguishers. I'm not sure in the Oklahoma area. I'll get with my counterpart in the West and see if we know of any companies in that area that actually will come out and service and inspect the F500 extinguisher. You are correct in what you found is some companies, because of that UL listing, won't inspect them. We have other companies that we found that still will service and inspect the extinguishers.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from Sunny Munda. In NFPA, is there any standard for lithium-ion battery fire test?
The only for a lithium-ion battery fire test, no. The only standard is the Dutch standard, and Hernan, can you correct me because it's the NT
8133.
8133. So the NT 8133, which is a Dutch standard, that is currently the only fire extinguishing test standard in the world for lithium-ion battery fires. F500 not only meets that test standard, it exceeded it. So the test standard that the NT 8133 calls for is that the extinguisher needs to be able to extinguish a 600-watt battery. After the extinguishment, the battery can't reignite, and there still has to be cells within the battery pack that are still holding a state of charge. The F500 has passed that test protocol, and our European extinguishers carry an NT 8133 listing. But in the initial testing that was done over in the Netherlands with their testing authority, the F500 handheld extinguisher was used on a 1.9 kilowatt hour battery 3 times what the test protocol calls for, and extinguished that battery multiple times over. So unfortunately here in the US or through NFPA, there is not a test protocol. That 18A, the NFPA 18A Annex 4.3, outside of the 855 standard, which is for battery energy storage systems, To the best of my knowledge, that NFPA 18A Annex 4.3 is the only reference to lithium-ion battery fire suppression in any NFPA standard.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Roberto Guerra from Peru says, thanks for the information. Please explain us the benefits for the health of the firemen and public around fires from battery fires, rubber, and oil fires.
So it's one of those, the biggest life-saving, I'll call it, for firefighters aspects of the agent is we have both laboratory testing and real world fire testing showing that when F500 is used to combat a fire, and be that a battery fire, a structure fire, a rubber fire, it can very rapidly both reduce the soot and toxins that are being given off by the fire, but it also drastically reduces the carcinogenic compounds within that smoke. So it is stopping the free radical coalescence, which is the free radicals that come together during vapor state combustion of a fire are heated up and collide. When that free radical coalescence happens, that is where soot and toxins are formed in the fire tetrahedron. F500 has the ability to stop that coalescence of the free radical chain reaction and prevent those toxins from forming, or drastically reduce the toxins that are formed within that smoke. So some testing that was done by the Laval Fire Department in Quebec, they were doing some structural firefighting where they were using plain water, and then they were using F500. They were using brand new firefighting hoods between each evolution, and they had those hoods tested post-fire by the University of Ottawa. And the University of Ottawa found, when they compared the plain water hoods versus the F500 hoods, when they looked at the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons that were trapped in that hood material, they were reduced anywhere from 60 to over 90% when the F500 was used compared to plain water. So the ability to actually scrub the IDLH atmosphere and reduce the toxins that we're being exposed to.
Wonderful, Ron. And we have the last question is from Charlie. This Charala. As I understand, encapsulation technology refers to blocking the surface of hydrocarbon from burning. It is also the case with Class D metal fires.
So with what F500's doing on a Class B fire, one of the ways it is working is that it is encapsulating that hydrocarbon inside of the spherical micelle. So think of that micelle as a chemical case or a chemical cocoon, and it's locking the hydrocarbon up inside of it. So it's chemically, molecularly separating fuel from oxygen. One of the other benefits of that micelle and of the encapsulator agent technology is that it forms a skin on the outside of the water droplet, and it has the ability to rapidly absorb that heat and use the entire mass of the water for cooling. So what we're doing in the Class D application is changing the substance on the surface of a water droplet from an H2O molecule to an encapsulator agent molecule, so you don't have an H2O molecule coming directly into contact with the Class D metal. You have an encapsulator agent molecule. Because of its rapid cooling capacity, it can very quickly both interrupt that vapor state combustion, so it removes flaming combustion almost instantaneously, but then very rapidly pull the heat out of that Class D metal and cool it to the point where I've taken the titanium, as we were doing testing with Paul from Chronomet, from burning at probably 2,500 to 3,000 degrees to ambient air temperature, you can pick it up with your bare hand in 30 seconds. So a very rapid cooling of the material, pulling that heat out. That's how it's extinguishing those Class D fires.
Thank you, Ron. Let me see. Have there been any study for exposure to aromatic hydrocarbons during overhaul? Does A500 reduce the risk? Yes. The answer is yes.
Yes, very rapidly. So what you'll see, and again, if you haven't been exposed to F500 before, I really encourage you to contact us, and we can set up presentations because we have videos that show this. So if you're looking at just what I talked about with the rapid cooling of the Class D metal, the same thing happens during a structure fire environment. We are cooling that material to the point that it is no longer off-gassing. So those aromatic hydrocarbons aren't being given off by that material even after it's extinguished, that it's still hot enough that it's releasing those PAHs. So yes, it can drastically reduce the PAHs in that structure type environment during the overhaul process, or even, when it comes to investigating post-fire during the investigative process.
Okay. Thank you, Ron. And we passed 7 minutes from 3 o'clock. I believe we answered a lot of questions. And if somebody wants to raise the hand, you have the last chance to open the microphone. But in the chat, we don't have any other question. If somebody wants to make the last question, we don't have it this moment. Thank you so much, Ron, for your time to answer all these different questions. We have other case history. We don't put all the case history because we have some case history from Panama that they use water foam for 6 days to try to extinguish in tire fires in recycling place. And when they start to use this technology, they can extinguish the fire in 4 hours. See, this is how you can spend time, how you can prevent the time, and how you can protect the people around of all these kind of incidents. Okay, please, Ron, you can say goodbye and say to all of the people that's thank you for the time that and the question that they made to you.
Absolutely want to thank you for your time. I know everybody's time is valuable, and I appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. Hoping you learned something today. And again, if you would like more information, if you'd like to set up a presentation or a demo at your facility, we have distributors around the world and employees that are ready to come out there and help spread the message and show you the benefits of F500 and what we can do for you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day. Have a wonderful night, a beautiful morning for the people all around the world. Thank you, and we see you in the next webinar in 1 month. Bye, Ron. Thank you.